Finally, we're getting to naming covalent molecules, as we've talked about the differences between ionic and covalent compounds. Now, brief reminder, covalent compounds are between non-metals. So non-metal bonds with non-metal, that's a covalent bond. And if you're ever seeing a metal in the compound, that means there are ions involved, and so your naming should involve the rules that pertain to ionic compounds. So let's look at the first example here. Carbon is in group 4. It's to the right of the stair-step line that separates the metals from the non-metals, so that means it's a non-metal. And oxygen, same story. It's in group 6 to the right of the stair-step line. So when we are naming these compounds, after we've confirmed that it's covalent, you will only need a prefix for the first element if there's more than one atom of that element in the molecule. So if we look at this molecule here, if we have one carbon, it's the first element in the molecule, we're not going to need to give it a prefix because there's only one of them. Sorry, I'm saying this a little slow. There's only one element in the first one, which there's only one carbon here. Then we're going to have to name it without a prefix. So we'll just write carbon. In the second part, we're going to need a prefix. And our prefixes are mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, I can just keep going, hepta, okay? You'll have a list of these on the back of your periodic table. And these are in order here, so mono means 1, di means 2. Alright, so we need a prefix for how many oxygens there are, so this is going to be dioxide. Okay, so we're still ending in "ide" the way we did that with our ionic compounds. The only difference here is that we're going to need prefixes, always need a prefix for the second element or any others beyond the first one, and we'll only need a prefix for the first one if there's more than one. So let's look at the next compound. In the next compound, we've got 2 carbons, our first element in the compound. So if we have 2, then we're going to have to say dicarbon. And then if we have 4 hydrogens, then we need to use the prefix for 4, which is tetra. Tetrahydride. Okay? Alright, that is simple covalent naming. Alright, so you can use a flow chart such as this one. If you just Google compound naming flow charts, I'm pretty sure you'll find tons of variations of this. It kind of helps you to be able to make decisions on how to name. I want us to be sorting compounds in class, and so we're going to do that in just a second, just to kind of summarize everything we've done. But it can help you to be able to figure out how you're supposed to name your compound, because it is a little bit complicated. You have to pay attention to a lot of different things at once. So if you're wanting to use something like this, this might help you when you're working on homework. Alright, so let's do this. This is to sum up everything we've done. I want us to name and categorize each of these compounds. And so the categories are simple ionic, transition metal, polyatomic ion, and covalent. This is the type of thing you might see in an opener question. So our simple ionic I'll call Si, our transition metal I'll call Tm, polyatomic I'll call Pa, and covalent I'll call Cv. Okay, so let's look at this first compound here. We have magnesium, which is a metal, and oxygen, which is a non-metal. Now the question is, for magnesium, is it a transition metal or a regular metal? Well, if you look at the periodic table, you'll find it's in group 2. So that means it's a regular main group metal. And so this compound is going to be just a simple ionic. Actually, the formula for this is wrong. It should just be MgO. I don't know what I was thinking. Please forgive me. MgO. Alright, so the name of this compound then would have to be simple naming rule, just magnesium oxide, before we learned anything that complicated and confused our naming skills. Alright, now let's look at the next compound. We've got carbon, which is to the right of the stair-step line. That means it's a non-metal. And oxygen, which is also to the right and is a non-metal. If we only have non-metals, then this compound must be covalent. So I'll put that with covalent. And we gotta write this to separate. Alright, so for naming, just a reminder, first element won't need a prefix if there's only one of them. So we'll just write carbon. Since there's two oxygens, our prefix for the second part is going to be dioxide. Alright. Next we have this one, which has a metal, barium, and this interesting thing with more than one atom. If you're thinking more than one atom, then clearly you should be thinking polyatomic, because they mean the same thing. So BaOH2 is our polyatomic category here. And remember, the naming for this is just going to use the name of the metal and then the name of the polyatomic ion. So this will be barium, and if you look up OH on the polyatomic ion list, it's hydroxide. Alright. Finally, we are coming to the last one. This one has nickel, which is a metal, but it's a special kind of metal. You'll find it in the D block. It is a transition metal with sulfur, which is a non-metal. So therefore, this must be our transition metal ionic compound, NiS. The name of this is going to have to include the charge, so we're going to have to evaluate that real quick. S, our non-metal, sulfur, is in group 6. It has a -2 charge. The only way this compound can be neutral, since we have one S and one nickel, is if nickel has a +2 charge, because that +2 and -2 balance each other out to add up to 0. So our name must be nickel, and the thing that we need to remember is our Roman numeral, nickel 2 sulfide. Didn't think I was going to have room for that. All right, that is a summary of all of our naming conventions. If you have any questions about anything you've seen in this video, please ask, and that's it for today.